Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Darryl Gardner, and I'm a real alcoholic. Um, I'm grateful to be alive, uh, and I'm grateful to be sober. And if you're relatively new, I want to welcome you and share with you that when I got here, um, you guys gave me this program of action that was outlined in the Big Book, Alcoholics Anonymous. And since y'all gave it to me, I haven't had to drink. My sobriety date is May the 23rd, 1993. So I know it's but for God's grace that I'm alive and I'm sober. And I want to thank Ali. Uh, I want to thank God, first of all, for merging the phone call between Ian and Ali. Um, Ian blessed my life. I mean, some of the conversations that we have had in chat, well, really chats. I mean, texts. All you guys, y'all in the tech age now. We texting and all the, but oh my God, he blessed me so a week or so ago, man, and then God merged the conversation with him and Ali. Thus, you got me. So if you was looking for anybody else, sorry. you you get you get me. But I am honored um, to be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and Ali, I'm honored to call you friend. And this, the wonders of Zoom, man. You guys, I have met you guys in the last 3 years, and you just don't know how you have poured into my life. And I got a long way to go and a short time to get there. So let's dive right in. I chose as a topic. On It's on the top of page 87, and it says what used to be a hunch or the occasional inspiration gradually becomes a working part of the mind. So now I want to talk about the thinking, my thinking. Let me just talk. I'm gonna talk about me and my journey from May of 1993 to right now. I got the Alcoholics Anonymous and ex-con drunk with a checkered past. God, the word God or God conscious was nowhere. It was nowhere in my thinking. And and there's a solution, and I'm gonna be bouncing back and forth. Hopefully, you can stay with me because, and there's a solution. It says nobody likes the soul searching, the leveling of pride, and the confession of shortcomings, which is required for the successful consummation of this program. So now, when you start, y'all started telling me leveling of, I mean, soul searching. What is that? Leveling of pride. What is that? Confession of shortcomings. What in the world are you guys talking about here? Because in that part, uh, all of my old ideas had to be set aside. I'm part of the Never Too Early Big Book Workshop, and every Sunday morning we say the set aside or lay aside prayer, and I ask God to help me lay aside everything I think I know so I can get a new experience um, with the program, with God, with the steps, with my disease, with my dis-ease, and all of that for an open mind and a new experience. And doing this, where it says that nobody likes this soul searching, it says the great fact is enough that we have had deep and effective spiritual experiences which have revolutionized our whole attitude towards life, our fellows, towards God's universe. Now, all of this God stuff, I came to the program full of guilt and shame. I've been in, all this religiosity. I had, because I was I was a young deacon in my church, and being and singing in choirs and all of that. I had this whole philosophy on the God idea, but I had to set all of that stuff aside, because all of the stuff I thought I knew got me a front row seat in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. So once I got here and I started the soul search, which brought on the leveling of pride, which pushed me into confession of my shortcomings. And y'all told me once I did that if I did it and followed the directions, I would be rocketed into this fourth dimension of existence. What in the world are y'all talking about? And see, my friend describes this fourth dimension. I was sitting across the table from my sponsor back at that time. And I was like, what in the world are y'all talking about, this fourth dimension of existence? And he said, Bubba. He called me by my street name. He said, Bubba, if you sitting here on a Wednesday night with me, with a book open, you are right in the middle of a spiritual experience. I was like, really? Then he started, I've been going to these meetings down through the years, and I've had different people describe fourth dimension experiences, which made me look at my own life. First, fourth dimension experience, when I was 2 years sober, the Lord blessed me with my only daughter. I was able to go through the Lamaze classes, and I was able to be there in the operating room when she was born. And I don't want to get too graphic, but anybody that has solved that process, I was standing there with my hands like this. And when her mother pushed that last time, she shot out like it was like if I would have been standing there, she'd have hit the floor. But what happened was she hit my hand, and I cradled her. And soon as I looked in her eyes, she wailed like, like, I'm here. This is my daddy. And I was able to wipe her. I was able to cut the cord. And I was a fourth dimension experience. Another one, that was at 2 years sober. At 4 years sober, I was able to watch my mother. She was diagnosed with lung cancer. This was 1997. I was 4 years old. Never forget. And this one particular, after she told us she was diagnosed, by the time she told us about this cancer, she was diagnosed, I think in February. By July, it had spread to her brain. By October, she had passed away. But after she told us, we started taking, me and my brothers and sisters. I got two brothers and two sisters. One of my sisters is on here now. We started taking care of my mother. My mother called me one day and she said, "Boy, I need you to come over here and put me in the tub and bathe me." And I was like, "Mama, I mean, you know, I'm grown. How do you do that?" She said, "Boy, I used to bathe your little," and I don't want to say, I don't want to cuss because it's dignitaries in the room. I'm just trying to, I'm trying to be nice. But I went over there and I picked my mama up and I put her in the tub. I undressed her, put her in the tub, bathed her, got her out of the tub, lotioned her down, combed her hair. And when I looked, when I looked at it, fourth dimension experience. Okay, so now if I'm having these kind of experiences 4 years earlier, I was in a prison cell that wasn't big as that bathroom in there, that had a window that was this big. And I would look out that window and say, where in the world? I was 35 years old, on my way to Alcoholics Anonymous. Didn't know it. God started strategically setting the stage up, strategically placing people in my life, strategically working behind the scenes. I don't know none of this. But once I started doing that soul searching, which brought on leveling of pride, which motivated me into confession of shortcomings. It got me to where I start being able to see this change in my mind. It says the central fact of our lives today is the absolute certainty that the Creator has entered into our hearts and lives in a way which is indeed miraculous. I'm an ex-con drunk. I'm from the streets of South Central Los Angeles. For me to be sitting around a table, for me to be having a book in my hand on a Tuesday night at 5:23 is miraculous. Baby, when I'm under the influence of alcohol, ain't nothing safe within a 5-mile radius of my I'm sorry, I cussed again. I'm trying to be good, y'all. Just pray with me. I'm trying to get to this topic that I'm talking about, because he had commenced to accomplish those things which we could never do for ourselves. I couldn't do it. I couldn't pull it off. And then I told you that stuff started happening. I made it here. God sent an angel to that halfway house. And you know, the angel had a short skirt, pumps, long hair. I had been locked up for 42 months. God knew how to get my attention. And that's what he used to get my attention. She went behind this door, went in the door of the chow hall. After about 15 minutes, I was like, where did she go? I want to see her again. And I stuck my head through the door that she went into. She was standing behind a desk and she was talking. When I stuck my head through the door, she stopped talking and she pointed at me and said, "There go my drinking buddy right there." I looked around, wasn't nobody in that door but me. She walked up to me and she grabbed me by the hand. And I don't know about you, I had been gone for like 42, 43 months. I wouldn't have cared if she would have went to the moon, I would have followed her. But what she did was she sat me down in the front row in an H&I panel meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. That was May the 23rd, 1993. That's how God got me here to y'all. And now that I got here, he started placing me. In step 10, it talks about being placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. This is the safest place. If you are drunk like me, if you're new, if you're relatively new, for me, this has been the safest place that I have found myself in the last almost 30, May the 23rd, 1990. In a couple of months, I'll be 30 years. This is the safest place that I have been in my whole life. And so now I'm doing what y'all suggested that I do. I get a sponsor. I go through the steps. I do inventory. I start working with others. There was a man that was in my home group. His name was Bob Hunt. And he was one of those kind of gentlemen. I mean, and I'm getting to the point in a minute. He would be talking from the podium and be so quiet in the room. It'd be a bunch of folks in that room. But it would get so quiet in the room and he would stop. And he would look around the room and he'd say, "That's God speaking." I started looking around the room. You talking about some spooky shit. Oh, I'm sorry, I cussed it out. Y'all excuse me, which was, it was spooky. Then he would say at the end of his pitch, he said, "You burn into the consciousness of every new man that he can get sober in spite of anything or anybody. The only requirement being that he trusts God and he clean house." So I set off onto this journey. Now I haven't always done it perfectly. There have been times. It talks about resting on your laurels. It talks about spearing off to the left. I have not always been the best drunk in Alcoholics Anonymous. Sure, I have always been of service. Sure, I got a AA resume that stretches of all the stuff that I've done in Alcoholics Anonymous. Sure, I have, but there have been times where I have not always done the things that I should have been doing. That's why it was suggested that I come in contact with a power much greater than myself. That I come in contact with God. And I think it's in We Agnostics. It talks about, in this book, we gonna talk about God. So now to step 11, we talk about sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact. Praying only for knowledge of his will and the power to carry it out. It says, if I rest on my laurels, you got to remember, Darryl, Bubba, you got to remember, what we really have is a daily reprieve, contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. So I must continue, as God, thy will, not mine, be done. So how do I get to that? They said, I need to follow some directions. It tells me what to do when I retire at night. It tells me what to do upon awakening. It gives me clear-cut directions. And it says it works if we have the proper attitude and we work at it. That suggests then I must practice this. How did I had a I had a buddy of mine. I was at a workshop. I was in an 11-step workshop. And he said, we was talking about building this relationship with this power. And he said, you remember your first girlfriend? I was like, oh, then we go back. Calvin, you remember how you used to stay on the phone? all the you stay on the phone so long, you go to sleep on the phone while you talking to her. You can't wait to wake up the next day and talk to her. And that's how you build the relationship. You use that kind of zeal, that kind of energy, how in the world, I'm from the streets. How do I do that? It says you start off at night. You go through this soul searching. Where was I resentful, selfish, dishonest, and afraid? Do I owe somebody an apology? I asked God to divorce my thinking. I mean, he said, Darryl, that's where you start. And then when you wake up the next day, you ask God to divorce my thinking of self-pity, dishonesty, self-seeking motives. And when I face indecision, we ask God to give us that information, that intuition, that intuitive thought or decision. It says we relax. We take it easy. And what used to be the hunch or occasional inspiration gradually becomes a working part of the mind. So what you telling me, if I continue to do this self-searching, this leveling of pride, this confession of shortcomings, if I continue before I retire at night, ask myself these questions, if I continue upon awakening to ask God, thy will, not mine, be done. You mean to tell me this will just come? It says, nevertheless, we find that our thinking will, as time passes, be more and more on the plane of information. We come to rely on it. That's our thinking, man. See, let's put this stuff in some real time. Let's talk about this. This prayer and meditation. When you talk about soul search, we're talking about the thinking. When you're talking about self-examination, it says in the 12 and 12, it says when it's linked up, when it's woven together with prayer and meditation, the result is an unshakable foundation for life. I'm gonna give you this for free. You don't know you got an unshakable foundation until your foundation has been shaken. You missed it. It was a high pitch shot. It flew right over your head. I'm gonna give it to you again. You don't know that your foundation is unshakable till some stuff happens. Till you watch your mama die with lung cancer. And by the end of it, God has changed my prayers for that. Instead of God heal my mother, I'm asking God, make her transition easy. intuitive thought. You come to rely on it. Working part of the mind. It just changed. At 52 years old, I'm working in real estate agent, loan consultant, one of the biggest financial institutions on the West Coast. 2008, the real estate market crashed. I lose everything. How do you deal with that? I keep soul searching. Talking about leveling of pride. But I keep confessing the shortcomings. I keep working with others. I keep praying. God, not my will, but thy will be done. We hit in 2019 or 2020. We had a worldwide pandemic. Around this time in 2020, in May the 6th of 2020, I was diagnosed with high-risk metastatic prostate cancer. Foundation shaking. What do you do with that? In the middle of a pandemic, I'm sitting in the doctor's office by myself. Nobody, my woman couldn't come, sponsor couldn't come, nobody could, just me, those cold four walls, and the doctor. Tell you metastatic prostate cancer. Suggested if you follow this program of action, you could probably beat this. 28 radiation treatments, 5 days a week for 6 weeks. I followed the instructions. You guys taught me follow the plan of action. I went to praying. I went to crying. I spoke on this meeting. Shortly after I was diagnosed, I cried through the whole 11-step talk. Just cried because I didn't know. Fear had gripped me. A friend of mine suggested, Darryl, you want to get rid of that fear? You read 3 readings on faith and 3 readings on healing. And if you do that every day for 2 weeks, that fear will disappear. You know, by now I'm sweetly reasonable because I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. You know, I couldn't, the word cancer just, I ain't never dealt with that before. I followed the plan of action. Start praying. I was going to Zoom meetings 3 times a day and followed that action. And in 3 days, the fear was gone. My God, this is a good program. This stuff works. I'm telling you. It says we don't struggle. We are often surprised how the right answers come after we have tried this for a while. This big book is something else, man. It weaves together answers that I need just when I need it. If you put yourself in the position to get blessed, how do I do that? I keep coming to meetings. I keep being of service. I keep working with that. I'm gonna listen at this one. 6 months ago, 7 months ago, Now, July of last year, I was diagnosed with chronic chronic arthritis in both of my hips. Your hip is a socket. The bone fits into a socket, but in between that socket, there's a little bitty space there that's cartilages in there. They told me I ain't got no cartilages left. Mine is bone to bone. You talking about pain? I go to sleep with it. I wake up with it. It's just there. You talking about praying. But see, going through that, or excuse me, that ordeal with cancer increased my faith. Because when I went through cancer, I was diagnosed May the 6th. I did those treatments, 28 radiations or 5 days a week for 6 weeks. In August, the end of August of 2020, cancer was non-detectable. When I went in there, when I first diagnosed, my PSA was 37.5. Anything over 4 was abnormal. After those treatments, cancer is non-detectable. My PSA was less than 0 and has been that way since August of 2020. Increased my faith. So if God can do that, well, wait a minute. Let's go back a ways. I'm a real alcoholic, not because of what I drank, where I drank, how much I drank, or who I drank with. I'm a real alcoholic because of what happens to me when I take just one drink. God removed the obsession for me to drink. Greatest thing he has ever done for me in my life. And I put that on top of my children, both of my children being born, my whole experience with my mother and my family. God removed the obsession for me to drink. So if he could do that, he can do anything. So once and then he did that with that cancer, it increased my faith. And it increased my prayer life. Now, it started off by saying, God help me set aside. Then at the third step, another prayer. God, I offer myself to you. And then, you have to go to the 7th step. And I don't want to start quoting prayers and all of that. And then the 11th step prayer. Make me a channel. Allow, and in this book, it says, when I am praying, all I'm doing is lifting my spirit to this power. So it don't make no difference where I am. I don't have to get down on my knees saying, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be. I ain't got to, that's a prayer that I've said. But right now, I got my hips, I can't get down if I get down on my knees, it'll take a crane to get me up off the floor. Don't y'all be laughing at that. That is not funny. But I'll sit right here in this chair and say, God, I'll talk to God. God, I need you right now. I need you to remove this pain right now. And then right after that, I say, because I need to go and meet with these men. Because it also tells me, don't pray for selfish things. It tells me, thy will, not mine, be done. Get out of yourself. You want to stop thinking about this pain? Go do something for somebody other than you. So that's what I've done. That has been my journey. I see you. I see you. Thank you very much. That has been my journey. This 11th step. Like I said, I was at a meeting this afternoon, and I started seeing all of these folks that saw me when I came in here. And one guy walked up to me, he said, man, Darryl, I remember when you came to the meeting, you had your Levi's creased, you had on your slingshot and your t-shirt with your pack of humps up here in the top of your t-shirt. You were standing in the back of the hall because I had 20-inch arms. I had a 52-inch chest. I had waves in my salt and pepper hair, and I thought I was it. You couldn't tell me nothing. 29 years later, I ain't got 20-inch arms no more. I ain't got a 52-inch chest. I got a 52-inch gut. Come on, Calvin, that ain't funny. But God has done a work in me. God has continued to allow me to be of service in Alcoholics Anonymous to his kids. And y'all told me if I take care of God's kids, God will take care of me. So I'm walking on a walker now. And I'll walk in meetings. People are opening the door. People are pulling out chairs. People are getting up, letting me sit down. People are going to get me coffee. People they're continually asking. So you know the lesson in that. And I heard Zena spoke on this meeting a couple of weeks ago, and she talked about it. It made me start doing that for people, even on my walker. How you doing? How's your mother? You know, because we be around here, we know people. We've walked through different things with people. We know stuff about their family, about their jobs, all that. Man, how you doing? She said, I need to exercise that muscle by saying thank you, by saying I love you, by saying, how are you? It takes practice. All of this stuff, it takes practice. But it just comes. The book said it just comes. It becomes a working part of the mind. Thank God that God has changed my mind. Thank God that he's changed my heart. My heart was so hard when I got here. My heart was so cold when I got here. I didn't give a damn about, I'm sorry. It's almost over and I done cussed again. I'm so sorry. But I didn't care nothing about y'all. God has done a work in me. They said it was miraculous. When I look at it, and he continues to do it. If you're new, if you're relatively new, and this 11th step, this God stuff, it kind of make the hair on the back of your head, your neck crawl, stand up and all. Don't worry about it. All I got to say right now, in spite of everything that I've said in the last 30 minutes or so, that this has been the best thing that has ever happened to me in my life. This program has done a wonder in my life. So what I do now is I suit up and I show up. I trust God. I clean out. I help it. A man says you need to stay close to the local drunks. But at the end of the day, today is the day that I don't drink. And I believed you when you said that the best was yet to come. I love you guys. Thank you for putting up with me for the last 35, 40 minutes. Ali, thank you again. I'm honored to be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Darryl, and I'm a real alcoholic. God bless you guys.